Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Money Matters podcast. I am your host, Jack, and it is a Mailbag Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Every single week, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. out West, we go live and we shoot the shit about Bitcoin. As a reminder, for those new to the show, I got no sponsors. I produce this podcast myself. Well, technically, me and my company Strike do. But the point is not to sell you any biased information. I'm not going to sell you a gym membership. I'm not going to sell you weight loss meals. I'm only here to talk purely, authentically, and transparently about Bitcoin and the state of the free world. Pure, simple, and to the point. Hello, chat. I see you all piling in. It's always love. It's always love. I appreciate you guys. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. I am not in the empty closet today. I am not in Chicago. Can anyone guess where I am? Where am I, chat? Just pulling up the latest price. Hello, hello. Good day. I did not sell my closet. I'm in a hotel. A little creepy. That man behind me gives you a good yes. Bird. Bird is the word. I am in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. I'm in the nation's capital. I have some presentations and some meetings tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about that. We got a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I'm in Washington, D.C. All right, let's let everyone pile in here. Here's the deal. I only have like 45 minutes to an hour. I got a dinner that I have to get to, and I have 2 presentations to give tomorrow. So this is going to be a shorter episode. Probably no trivia if I had to guess. Probably just a little market analysis on the dump and some Q&A. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully that's okay. So this will be a generally shorter episode. So with that, I'm inclined to get this show on the road, if that's okay with you guys. All right. We have a lot of people in here already, so we're going to get started. Okay. This episode is being recorded with a Bitcoin price of $79,580. Quite the dip. That puts Bitcoin's total market cap, the total worth of the asset class of the network, at around $1.5 trillion, down from an all-time high of a little over $2 trillion. Okay? We are broadcasting from Bitcoin block height 887,233. Okay. Bitcoin's all-time high, for those that don't know, is 109,300. And so we are currently 27% down from its all-time high. And that is really what I wanted to talk about today. Ooh, my phone's going off. That's what I wanted to talk about today, is this dip, and explain it. It doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, if you've been a frequent listener of this show, I think, it shouldn't surprise you either. We've been talking about near-term volatility, about dips, about dumps. But obviously the world is freaking out. The world is confused. And so once we let everyone else pile in, I will go on my weekly rant. Okay, let me make sure. Okay. Scare you out, wear you out. That's a frequent listener. Shout out, Pat. That's a frequent listener. Okay. Listen, here's my rant on the Bitcoin dump. Listen, we got our strategic Bitcoin reserve. Okay. It is a Bitcoin only reserve. The crypto coin funds, they're not buying any altcoins. They're not thinking strategically about altcoins. In fact, the only strategic notion about the crypto stockpile is that they can be sold to buy more Bitcoin. The government is not going to be selling any Bitcoin. It's going to think about strategically buying Bitcoin. However, for those of you that think that Bitcoin is driven by announcements, you have been fooled. Okay. This market is far too big and far too sophisticated to move on announcements like what we saw with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. This was no new information. This was no new purchasing of Bitcoins. This market, this is a global commodity market. If you think it's supposed to move on announcements like that, you have been fooled. Guys, Bitcoin is the only true global free market left in existence. Okay. The price of Bitcoin tells the world in real time what the global community thinks about the current state of fiat liquidity. Super important. Bitcoin's price is not a reflection of what the White House thinks. Bitcoin's price is not a reflection of what Elon Musk thinks. Bitcoin's price is not a reflection of what Michael Saylor thinks. Bitcoin is the only global free market we have left, and it is the reflection and the expression of what the world thinks of fiat liquidity. Meaning this, Bitcoin is not a hedge. Bitcoin is a solution. Okay. I often hear people, Bitcoin's not acting like the hedge it's supposed to be. It's not acting like the hedge that gold is. Bitcoin's not a hedge. Bitcoin is a solution, meaning Bitcoin is a put option on the existing system. Bitcoin is long volatility. Bitcoin is monetizing chaos. Bitcoin is the best expression of currency debasement. Okay. Meaning when fiat liquidity dries up, Bitcoin leads. And Bitcoin expresses that first, and Bitcoin goes down. When Bitcoin liquidity loosens up and money printers go burr, Bitcoin leads. Bitcoin's the best performing asset in human history. Bitcoin goes up the most. Okay. So why is all of this relevant? Bitcoin's not trading off announcements from the White House. It's not trading off announcements from Saylor. It's not trading off Elon Musk's interviews on Fox. What's it trading off? Okay. Donald Trump wants cheap money. Another way to say that, the politically correct way to say that, is Donald Trump wants lower interest rates. Okay. But we know, and we've been saying on this show over and over and over again, I tweeted it out a month ago, the Federal Reserve is openly stated they will not listen to Donald Trump. Okay. I actually pulled up, there's a Bloomberg op-ed by Bill Dudley, the former chairman of the Fed of New York. Okay. And he wrote a Bloomberg op-ed in 2019. It's right here titled, "The Fed Should Not Enable Donald Trump." Okay. The Fed is openly saying they will not support his monetary policy, this administration's economic plan. Okay. So what does Trump and Scott Bessent do? They are letting markets collapse. They are drying the markets up of liquidity. They are letting Elon Musk run rampant inside Washington, D.C. and cut all spending, fire everybody. Guys, whether it's spent through the government or not, dollars that are issued into the world find their way into Whole Foods, find their way into NFL merchandise, find their way into the real estate markets where you live. If Elon Musk is cutting trillions and trillions of dollars of fraudulent spending and firing lots of jobs, that crashes the economy. The Treasury and the U.S. government are pulling back liquidity and demanding from the Fed and from the long end, from the 10-year, cheaper money. Trump says, I want to reshore everything in America. That requires cheaper money. Another thing, you guys, Just to put this in perspective, these guys need to reprice $10 trillion of bonds this year. They need to reprice $2 trillion in April alone. April is their biggest month. $2 trillion in April, $10 trillion this year. So markets hate uncertainty, and I've been saying it on this podcast over and over and over and over again. The near term is extremely uncertain. We don't know how tariffs are going to play out. We don't know how the government layoffs are impacting the economy. The economic data that came out on Friday, we still don't know. That economic data is not factored in all of the firing that's going on in DC. So, government, Trump, Bessent, they are drawing up liquidity because they want the Fed to cut rates. They need cheaper. Guys, if you had to refinance $10 trillion, do you want rates at 4.5% or do you want them lower? They need cheaper dollars. They need cheaper dollars. And I've been saying it on this podcast over and over and over again. But the thing that shocks me is that people think Bitcoin trades off of announcements in Washington, D.C. Of course it doesn't. It trades off global liquidity. It trades off fiat liquidity. And the U.S. government, Bessent, is not playing around. Let me read you guys a few quotes that I pulled up from Bessent in preparation for this episode. Quote, "The market and the economy have just become hooked, and we've become addicted to this government spending. There's going to be a detox period. There will be a little disturbance, but we are okay with that. It won't be too bad." Guys, they're telling you. This is a thing that shocks me logging into Twitter. They're telling you exactly what they're doing. Exactly what they're doing. The market and the economy have become hooked and addicted to this government spending. We need a detox period. Trump and Bessent, they need to get this over with, basically. Because, guys, if it wasn't going to be now, they can continue to perpetuate it in stimulus with liquidity. But when are they going to get their cheaper rates? When are they going to fix the 10-year? When were they planning on refinancing all this debt they have this year? The best time to go through pain, if you're this administration, is right now. And I've been saying that there's way too much uncertainty, way too much debt to refinance, way too much beef between Trump and the Fed. We are living in fiscal dominance. You cannot, if you're the Federal Reserve, you cannot have your own opinion while the U.S. is $37 trillion in debt. Your opinion doesn't really matter anymore. Sorry. Doesn't. These guys got $10 trillion to refinance. Sorry. So I'll say the same thing on this podcast as I have the last few weeks, guys. Short term is going to be volatile. It is. There's way too much uncertainty. No one knows. I mean, all these guys are running around touting tariffs everywhere. It's obvious. It's obvious what they're doing. They're literally going on television and telling you the market and the economy have become hooked. We've become addicted to government spending. There's going to be a detox. There will be a little disturbance. We're okay with that. It won't be too bad. Now, once they get their cheap money, it's all aboard dollar debasement, weaker dollar, higher assets. But they have to lock in the cheaper money. They're not going to finance this entire administration with these rates this big. And you've literally got the former Fed of New York, the president of the Bank of New York, op-ed, Bloomberg, the Fed shouldn't enable Donald Trump. The central bank should refuse to play along with an economic disaster in the making. Okay. I mean, these guys, like Bessent and these guys are going to, okay, fine. You don't want to give me the cheaper dollars that we need to fix this country? I'll force you. Pax Americana will collapse as you know it if you don't start cutting. It's really, really simple. It's really, really simple. But I think the key point in all of this is Bitcoin is the only true global free market that we have in the world. Okay. The price of Bitcoin tells the world what the global community thinks about fiat liquidity. Bitcoin does not trade on Donald Trump announcements, Elon Musk tweets, Michael Saylor convertible. It does not. One of the unique and rare utilities that Bitcoin has is a global expression of what the world thinks about fiat liquidity, meaning it's not a hedge, it's a solution. It's not a hedge, it's a solution. It's a put option on the existing system. It's long volatility. It's monetizing chaos. It's the best expression of currency debasement. And if Scott Bessent and Donald Trump are going to choke the Fed and choke global markets, stock market, the local economy here in America to get the cheap money that they need, Bitcoin, its utility that Bitcoin's going to be first and going to be the most violent because it's screaming at the world what's actually going on. So this is all absolutely normal, and I'm a little surprised that people are surprised. And you show me the cheap dollars, and I will show you a $500,000 Bitcoin. I've been saying it, and for everyone that's been listening to the show for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, I mean, I've been saying the same thing over and over. Not to be that guy, but man, it's got financial authorities will literally tell you what they're doing. There's not even room to debate on the internet. I mean, the Treasury, Bessent is telling you literally what he's doing. So anyway, you got to stay humble and stack sats. Do I think that this bull market is over? No, far from it. I think these guys have $10 trillion to reprice. I mean, you got a $2 trillion bill due in April. What do you want to do about that? And some guy named Powell's not going to play ball because he doesn't like the way you talk, or I don't know, right? I'm not trying to get political, but all right. I've been tweeting it for a really long time. It's obvious. This is also why, guys, this is why you live your life in a profit. Okay. It's why you don't use leverage. It's why you earn more than you spend, because it takes the emotion out of all of this. It should not be a stressful period, right? I was talking to a buddy of mine. We're in a group chat, and someone goes, "Why do you think Bitcoin's dipping like this?" And my buddy goes, "Because God wanted us to have more sats." What like an optimistic way to look at it. And it's the truth. Is, if you are staying humble, stacking sats, living your life in a profit, this is a blessing. Everyone internally at Strike, we're pumped. I mean, we operate in a profit every single day. We stack sats every single day as a business. And so this is phenomenal. I mean, I'm getting another attempt to get Bitcoin with a 7 handle all day. Go Trump. Go show Powell who's boss. Yeah, you tell him. Who cares? But it just surprises me because, you get too many of these CNBC talking heads or these Bloomberg analysts. These guys are like, Bitcoin's not acting like the hedge that gold is. It's like, yeah, but gold's not a truly free market anymore. Bitcoin is what the global community thinks about the current state of fiat liquidity. And if the US government is going to play tough ball with the Fed, Bitcoin's going to puke first. That's utility. What else on a Sunday night can you go express the fact that Trump is going to bully Powell into cheaper dollars so that he could reshore America? What other instrument can you express that on a Sunday night? That's amazing. Amazing. And it's obvious. I still think Bitcoin is going to hundreds of thousands of dollars this year. This administration has campaigned on cheaper dollar, fueling growth, currency debasement. They've campaigned on it. I mean, the guy wants to cut taxes. The guy wants to cut taxes. It's all about spend, 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 growth, 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 debase, debase, debase. All right. So as I said, I got a dinner at the top of the hour here in the nation's capital. I got to wear a suit tomorrow. I told the guys, I'm like, listen, no tie. But I got a suit and a collar. So I got this dinner. I got 2 presentations tomorrow. I'm sitting down with Paulo, the CEO of Tether, and we're having a fireside chat. And then I got a keynote tomorrow to close the conference out. So I have maybe like 20 to 30 minutes of Q&A, if that's okay with you guys. I think we don't have time for trivia today. I think hopefully that rant made sense. We do some Q&A, and I can answer any questions you guys have about anything, but particularly obviously the rant and global liquidity. And then unfortunately I got to get out of here. Okay. Let's see. Questions. As a reminder, you guys can ask questions in the chat, and then I have some of my team that it's also in the chat writing them down in a document for me. So we're trying to see all your questions, make sure they're all written down, and here we go. First question: how long until the market starts to turn and the bull market resumes? Again, what I said, I'll show you the bull run when you show me the liquidity. And that goes for all assets, by the way. The stock market's getting hammered as well. Hammered. So show me the liquidity and I'll show you the bull market. It's up to the financial authorities. I mean, let me say, guys, if the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve never printed another dollar, ran in a surplus, and operated the U.S. like Bitcoin would grow slower. It wouldn't die. It's still better technology. It's still better money, but it wouldn't be as explosive in growth than currency expansion of the currency units of the money supply is around 14% year over year recently. I mean, that's outrageous. So if I had to guess when the bull market resumes, sometime in Q2, but it depends. It depends when these guys have gotten what they wanted. They need cheaper rates to refinance all this shit. Do you think they will buy Bitcoin for the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the future? Yes, I do. In fact, they were very particular about that. But let me be clear. What do you think would have happened if Trump came out and said, we're buying 1 million Bitcoins? The market would have ripped. So again, it's not to be that guy, but it's just kind of obvious. What do you expect the guy to say? I'm buying 1 million Bitcoins so that you guys can all buy before I do? No. What's he going to say? We have Bitcoin strategic reserve different than the crypto strategic reserve. We think of Bitcoin strategically different than crypto. We're going to add to our Bitcoin position in a tax neutral in a neutral way so that we're not using tax dollars to pump Bitcoiner bags. And we'll follow up after we've bought. Why would he tell you before? Right? So yes, I do think so. I think the other cool thing about this administration is these guys understand financial markets. Scott Bessent, Lutnick, these guys understand financial markets. So they're very clear with the market and telegraphing. We're not going to sell any. We'll add to our position. How much and when? Wouldn't you like to know? We'll let you know after we've filled our order. Duh. No shit. Is China the reason behind the dip? Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's global liquidity stuff. Like, guys, think about what Trump's letting Elon do. He's taking tons of money out of the economy by letting him go and audit Washington, D.C. in full, which, to be clear, I'm a full fan and in favor for. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that's going to impact the economy. That's a lot of money and jobs that are just being eliminated. He's doing it on purpose. He's going to let Elon run rampant and crash everything until he gets the price of money that he wants. So it's all about liquidity in the system. I mean, China, to be clear, everyone plays this game. Like, if China wants to keep their exports competitive, when the U.S. weakens the dollar, China needs to weaken their currency to keep up. So it all sways. When the U.S. starts, everyone starts. When the U.S. stops, everyone stops. Won't cutting taxes not change anything about the current debasement situation? Just pump money into the economy, leading to mass spending. Yeah, but it'll, like, okay, let me, how do I say? So I'm a business owner, right? I run Strike. Do I think that, would I expect growth in my business if all of my customers got richer overnight because they didn't have to pay their taxes? Do I think that my customers who are Bitcoiners would say, oh, wow, I don't have to pay 20 to 50% of my income to the government? I'm going to use that to buy more Bitcoin. So do I think that that money would end up in my business? Yeah, probably. It's stimulative to the economy. It's about growth. Reshoring and building everything back in America, we can't, with what money is the thing? Like, we don't have any money. Where are we going to get it? We're going to have to print it. So I think reshoring, I mean, everything about Trump is, inflationary. They're going to try and make it inflationary in assets that they're also telegraphing to you, by the way, which assets they care about. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's good for business. If all of the money that people are earning goes back into businesses instead of the government, it's good for the economy, right? Aside from cheap money boosting Bitcoin, doesn't cheap money also make malinvestments possible? What's the stop malinvestments happening again? I think so. He means malinvestments like FTX, I think. Cheap, nothing, the free market. I mean, like, it's no central authority, it's no central banker's job to price money accurately to the point where it stops people from being stupid. I believe in more a form of Darwinism. If you're dumb and you can't hold on to the money you've earned because you invest in stupid things, then you're destined to be poor. Sorry. Kind of the reality of the situation. Shouldn't matter what some unelected private central banker has to say about that. So, and to be clear, I'm not advocating for manipulation of currency. I don't agree with central planning. I'm just trying to like educate you guys. Again, I don't have any ads. I'm not making any money on this podcast. This is just spending my Mondays ranting about what's on my mind. I'm just letting you guys know what's going on. Trump campaigned on getting a cheaper dollar, a weaker dollar, cheap money to reshore everything on America and basically realign global trade post World War II. That's what he campaigned on. And Powell's not playing ball. And so you got to rip the Band-Aid at some point. He's ripping it right now. What would you rather, rip it at midterms? No way. Let's get it over with. And they're not being shy about it. They're literally telling the media, yeah, it'll be tough in the beginning. We'll be all right. So it's obvious what happens. Or doesn't cheap money enable malinvestments? Yeah, it does. And, you know, wealth transfer is important. We're living through the greatest wealth transfer in human history right now. Sam Bankman-Fried wasn't destined to have a lot of wealth. Is that Jerome Powell's fault or Sam Bankman-Fried's fault? I don't know. Free market thinker would say Sam's fault. He made the decisions. So once the Fed capitulates on, I don't know why you spelled rates that way. So once the Fed capitulates on rates and we refinance the maturing debt, at that point, you think the money printers will come back on and liquidity will be injected into the market? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Because again, these guys, like, they're even kind of playing with fire right now. Even if they get the price of money they want, they're losing a lot of money right now on like tax receipts if they keep this up. Think about it. If the fiscal year ended right now, nobody would be feeling rich, selling assets at a gain, at a capital gain, paying taxes to the government. So they're fucking with their revenue a little bit in the form of receipts, tax receipts. So yeah, the liquidity's got to come back. They don't have time. They don't have time. So yes, I expect the liquidity to come back in a major way. And Trump is not shy about that. Trump spends more money. Trump spent more money in his first term than Biden. Now they've campaigned on totally different things. Trump is trying to reshore and build everything locally. But yeah, like I expect, you know, businesses to go to Trump and say, hey, I'll manufacture shit here, but I don't have any money to do so. And Trump will print it, give it to him. Do you buy into the theory that Bitcoin follows the M2 money supply with a 70 to 90-ish day lag? I do. I think M2 is a little too simple. Global liquidity is a little bit more complicated than M2, but generally speaking, I do. So the M2 money supply, what this listener is asking is, you know, you can follow the M2 and Bitcoin lags it a little bit. And so M2 dipped and bottomed out towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, and it started an uptrend February. Now we're into March. And is Bitcoin going to do the same? It's just a few months behind. Yes. I do think in Q2, Bitcoin it could find a bottom any day now. I do think it starts to build an upwards trend in Q2. And as liquidity comes back, I think this thing goes to hundreds of thousands of dollars. As violent as it is to the downside, it's just as violent to the upside. People, you know, Bitcoin is the extreme both ways. So as bad as this feels, it feels equally as euphoric to the upside. So I don't know. It sucks, man. I've been trying to just, you know, every Monday I've been saying the same shit. I feel bad because people feel caught off guard by this. And I've been volatility. They're going to take the seat from without you, scare you out, wear you out. Be careful. Trump's not fucking around. He's not going to take a no from Powell lightly. He's going to bully that guy. Besson's got way too much debt. This guy gets sworn into the treasury position. and gets handed a $10 trillion bill with rates this high? Guys, there's too much debt. That's the thing, is people keep looking back at like what the Fed did in the 70s. Yeah, but in the 70s, we didn't have $37 trillion of debt. That's the problem. We have a debt crisis. We have too much debt. Thoughts on budget neutral strategies for buying Bitcoin? Any and all of them. You know what a funny budget neutral strategy is to buy Bitcoin? Selling shit coins, selling confiscated shit coins for Bitcoin. That's budget neutral. That is not burdening the taxpayer. I think that budget neutral was very purposely crafted language to protect this administration from the accusations and the claims that they are pumping the bags of Bitcoiners at the expense of the American taxpayer. But budget neutral gives, you could do anything with that terminology. You could use tariff income to buy Bitcoin. You could sell gold to buy Bitcoin like Senator Lummis wants to. You can sell shit coins to buy Bitcoin. All of that is budget neutral. It's just that innocent voters that don't have a biased interest in Bitcoin, you're not going to take their hard-earned income and buy Bitcoin with it, because you do not want to be accused of biasing a voter group. That is the only reason that language is used, in my humble opinion. Anything is fair game, though. And again, you're dealing with seasoned businessmen in this administration. These guys do not fuck around. I would not bet against Howard Lutnick. If Howard Lutnick says, I plan on buying Bitcoin, I take that man at his word until he compromises on it. If we continue declining in the S&P 500 from here, do you think after the bottom is in, we will have a few years before the next major correction or recession? What do you guys think my answer is going to be? It's global liquidity, guys. I mean, I do think that Bitcoin, until Bitcoin builds a capital base and enough adoption where it totally separates from any sense of risk, then it's a liquidity game. And I still think that narrative for Bitcoin is very strong, because it's not a hedge, it's a solution. If global liquidity and debasement is running rampant, Bitcoin's going to the moon. If financial authorities are going to tighten the system, now, like arbitrarily over a year or two, I mean, we're talking about little blips in time. Yeah, Bitcoin's going to be reactive to that. As a holder of Bitcoin, I have no problem with that. Like, the trend is the dollar's going down. But in these little tiny moments, sometimes they strengthen the dollar because they've unleashed way too much inflation, for example. What do I want Bitcoin to do? If you want as violent as it is to the upside, you got to take the downside too. It's physics. So, I mean, it could be years. Who knows? Maybe cycles are done. Maybe Trump ushers in a new era. Maybe this time is different. I doubt it. I think that we probably are really strong from Q2 up in, 2 or maybe through midterms. I mean, they're going to exhaust themselves probably through midterms, and then maybe like liquidity tightens up again until, they get ready for the spigot in the next election. I don't know. But like, we're living in fiscal dominance right now. Like, what matters is the US Treasury, because what matters is all this debt. So, what happens to Bitcoin if we enter a recession? How long could it last, and what would happen? That's a good question. Recession, the technical term of a recession, recession, quote unquote, could last a quarter, right? We've had technical recessions in recent years, but they haven't felt like recessions, like a crisis. What happens to Bitcoin? If liquidity dries up and the dollar strengthens, Bitcoin in that immediate moment will go down. Absolutely. If you have a moment where, there's a phrase in finance, you sell what you can, not what you want. Okay. if someone has made millions of dollars in Bitcoin and they don't have nearly as much money in other stuff, and a recession hits, and all of a sudden they're getting fired from their job, they can't afford their rent, their mom has an emergency surgery that all of a sudden money in the family's tight, they're selling the Bitcoin because they can, not because they want to. And so whenever monetary situations get tight and there are constraints, you sell your winners despite not wanting to. And so you'll see the biggest gaining tech stocks, Bitcoin, the best performers will get sell pressure because it's a lot of where, the wealth has been built. So in the immediate, you'll see some sell off. But I think the long-term story for Bitcoin is pretty simple. Like, let's say the dollar and this current economic system totally collapses and everything's fucked. Well, we're going to need a new monetary system. What's the likelihood of Bitcoin being a viable solution? Very fucking high. So I think if everything collapses, Bitcoin wins. If it doesn't collapse and they continue just debasing the dollar and printing their way out, Bitcoin wins. I think like the long term, Bitcoin wins because it's better money, it's a better monetary network, better everything. But in the short term, it's all about liquidity. It's all about how tight or loose liquidity is, what financial authorities are trying to do. Because Bitcoin, a lot of the utility that this thing has is it allows the world to express how they feel about what financial authorities are trying to do to them. And there are not many markets, if any at all, that allow for that level of expression. So it's just very violent. It's very pure. But, welcome to the real world. One other thing I'll say in the welcome to the real world is in today, like central authorities, whether it be central banks, governments, they try and take the volatility out of your life, right? They're trying to strip all of they're trying to normalize how much you can make, how much your eggs are supposed to cost. Like, on what planet is some government supposed to tell me how much a farmer is willing to sell goods and services to me? What happened to the free market? But they're trying to strip away all this volatility from you. What you're seeing in Bitcoin is something that isn't controlled by a central authority. And it's violent, but it's the real world. It's the real world. It isn't like a centrally controlled and manipulated world. So, do you think the Federal Reserve's pivot from hawkish to dovish will melt hodlers' faces? Yeah, I do. I think what Trump and Bessent are planning will melt faces for sure. 100%. 100%. Okay. Do you think a worst case scenario bottoms out around 70K? Do you think we will close below 58K this year? It's really hard to guess Bitcoin prices. I try not to guess prices because it's hard. Like, for example, there's been more long positions liquidated in the Bitcoin market over the last few days than there have been in the last 5 years. Like, everyone added leverage after the SBR announcement. And so the market's going to puke on itself because those positions have to cover, and it's just, a cascading factory all the way down. And so I think it's hard to predict where the peak bottom is. But generally speaking, I don't see the 50s as very probable. It could touch there for a second. I don't see us staying there unless things get really, really bad and chaotic. I would expect financial authorities to step in there. I think we'll test 70 to 75. I mean, what's the price right now? I'm not even paying attention, if I'm being honest. I really that's this level of zen I am. I've been in this shit for so long. 79. Yeah, I mean, I could see 70, 75 being tested. I expect a lot of support there. That's basically fully retracing the Trump victory after the election. Makes sense. Is the 4-year cycle dead? No, but it might change a little bit. I think compared to prior cycles, we've underperformed post-halving up until this point, but we overperformed drastically pre-halving. Everyone has this since the halving last cycles, and this one's lagging. But do it before the halving. Like we got the ETF before the halving, and Bitcoin, like, didn't Bitcoin make new highs before the halving? That had never happened before. And so it's exhausting. People are like, this isn't doing what it did after the halving like last time. Yeah, but it's not doing what it did before the halving either. Kind of cancels each other out. I think it's a global liquidity story. I still expect smashing new all-time highs this year. I mean, again, like, what do you want Bessent to do? He's got a $10 trillion bill this year. He's got $37 trillion worth of debt. He's got massively high rates and a population worried about inflation. What do you want the guy to do? Fiscal dominance. It's all about the debt levels. You want that guy to refinance $10 trillion with rates at 4.5%? With the 10-year at 4.8%? Guys, the 10-year's gone from 4.8 to 4.2. 4.8 to 4.2, like that. You know who's happy? Scott Bessent. Doesn't give a fuck about your Tesla stock. Well, he does, but not now. Do you pay any attention to chart technicals? Does breaching previous all-time high give you any pause? No. Oh, lines on charts don't get me going. Again, Bitcoin's not a hedge, it's a solution. It's all about liquidity. Do you think Bitcoin will eventually demonetize real estate? If so, how high will home prices reach before they begin to fall? I don't know how to speculate on home prices. I'm not a real estate trader. But yeah, I do think Bitcoin will eventually demonetize real estate because so many of the homes owned today, people own them not to live in them. They own them to make money, to save money as an investment. And you're better off saving the money and investing the money that you want to persist in Bitcoin than in housing. And so Bitcoin will allow everyone to consume the things they want and save the money that they need. And so if everyone sells the houses that they're not actually living in and lets those houses go to people that actually need homes, and they convert that capital into Bitcoin, then what do you have? You have all of the money that society has earned and wants to save in Bitcoin, which is designed to retain its wealth. And then you have all the houses that we've built for people that need to live in a house. There's no reason for people to have 6, 7, 8 houses. You know, it just shows you how broken the money is. The money's that broken where people are desperately looking for ways to save. And who's going to win in a bidding war? Someone who desperately needs a house but can't afford one, or someone that's rich enough to own 10? You're just going to outbid the poor guy that's living paycheck to paycheck. And so that's where you get this wealth gap, where you've got the ultra rich owns all the homes, and the paychecks to paychecks are living in these tiny little fucking closets in big major cities. Is Saylor buying Bitcoin or paper Bitcoin? Is this going to lead to the same situation as gold, where there's dozens of claims on the same contract? I think Saylor's buying real Bitcoin. I don't think he's buying paper Bitcoin. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I do not think that Bitcoin and gold markets will be similar, because the Bitcoin is not concentrated in how gold is concentrated. Gold had to concentrate because you cannot achieve transaction finality with gold without a central party like a company or a government or some central financial authority, right? Like, how am I supposed to buy my Uber Eats with gold? Now, obviously, I don't have the opportunity because gold, got demonetized and failed as money a long time ago. But how can I move gold from Chicago to London? I need to deposit it to a bank or to a government first, and they help facilitate that. So for that reason, all of the gold is held in vaults with financial authorities. So for that reason, it became not necessarily a free market and much easier to manipulate. If you look at the stats of Bitcoin, of like the 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist, only like a couple million are on exchanges. So even if all of Saylor's are on exchanges somewhere, I mean, that's just too small of a position to like manipulate anything. Tiny. All the people own Bitcoin. What do you think of holding FBTC in a Roth IRA? I can't answer that one. I don't know what FBTC is. Sorry. I read GameStop could potentially be one of the most powerful companies in the near future with Bitcoin, especially with $5 billion available right now. I mean, the thing about these companies is, you need failed businesses to kind of do the MicroStrategy. So GameStop, I guess, is a failed business. They have $5 billion worth of cash. I don't know why they would do that. Is that what this question is saying? Listen, I don't know anything about GameStop. Um, in many ways, GameStop was like a shit coin. If it doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin and it's like meme garbage, it's just, there's no long-term value accrual narrative there. It's just not my swag. But I don't know if they buy $5 billion worth of Bitcoin and start levering their operating company because they admit it's failed and do MicroStrategy. That'd be fascinating, super interesting. If I were them, I would do it. But I can't speak to it. I don't know anything about GameStop, if I'm being honest. Does Strike encourage pleb/customers to open Lightning channels with Strike? No, because we don't want to have hundreds of thousands of Lightning channels open to our node. We encourage people to open channels with routing nodes, and we are pretty public about who we're connected to. But managing that many Lightning channels is a disaster. We've done it in the past, and it's just kind of stupid. So we are pretty selective in who we manage like our liquidity with. But it shouldn't be. It's not a big deal either way. You open a channel to a routing node, and that routing node is connected to us. It's the same thing. Okay, lending. Any update on the beta testing of the loan product? Yes. Production loans for Strike is going out now, and I would expect a public announcement where we like really start rolling out publicly in maybe like the first week of April. So we're probably less than a month away from a formal announcement, something like that. What interest rates will they be in, and will you be more competitive than Ledn, which are pretty high? And will you do something like no monthly payments like Ledn? I don't know much about Ledn. I know we plan to make ours as competitive as we possibly can. The initial product will be, the initial product will be whatever it will get us to market. And then over time, it'll get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper pretty quickly, actually, with some of the capital partners we have lined up. The no monthly payments, we have a product where you can roll your interest payment into your principal. So you don't actually have to make the payment. Your principal just grows, if that's what you're asking. We're super excited about it. So yeah, I'm very confident in our products. Really, really exciting. It's just so cool to have a financial institution like Strike where you can download it, get set up with an account, buy as much Bitcoin as you want, and then borrow against it all within 2 minutes. Pretty crazy. So yeah, we're really excited. We're issuing loans now, and we'll see. Just to be clear, guys, you just never know. I've built enough products in my time where you just never know how things go. That's the point of testing. It's not because we think it's fun. We do it because it's responsible. So who knows what comes up in testing, but if I had to give you a guess as of right now, I would say, maybe 4 weeks away from seeing a tweet by me and a press release that our loan product is rolling out to the public. Strike does not have a ticker. We are not a public company. Private. Personal question. Have you ever had a gym shoe sandwich? If not, what's your favorite Chicago sandwich? I do not know what a gym shoe sandwich is. My favorite Chicago sandwich, I don't eat a lot of sandwiches in Chicago. I just eat steak. I only eat sandwiches. I love eating sandwiches in Europe, like Italy. I loved eating sandwiches. What's that place called? Hold on. JP Graziano's would be my answer for the best sandwich in Chicago. But I don't know. I'm not a sandwich guy, if I'm being honest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to get to this dinner. I'm going to be a little late. That's okay. Do anything for this chat. Yeah, listen, guys. I mean, I think there's a lot of new people to the space, and they thought that because Donald Trump hosted a boys' night with a bunch of people in the industry that would move the price. It's not. It's not. It's all about liquidity. I've been saying Trump and Powell have stuff to figure out. I mean, I can't believe this op-ed was published in 2019. You can look it up. Bill Dudley is the former president of the Fed Bank in New York. The Fed shouldn't enable Donald Trump. So, it doesn't really matter what side of the political aisle you're on. Trump any government, any administration needs cheap money, and he's got to find a way to get it. This was my prediction the whole time. Bitcoin is the best expression of global liquidity. A lot of its utility is the fact that it's a global commodity with a market cap over $1 trillion that never closes. That's free. So it's working. And the fact that, I operate my life in a profit, I operate my business in a profit. I mean, this is a great time to be stacking sats. So, yeah, hopefully those that listen to this show and the Money Matters podcast is on the right side of history here. Hopefully none of you guys are out there using leverage, and we're adding leverage positions after Trump announcing stuff. Just watch liquidity, watch M2, watch Besson. Besson's going on CNBC and he's telling you exactly what he's doing. Just slow down, listen. The answers are right in front of you. And with that, stay humble and stack sats. This can be a really, really fun year. This is nuts. This is a really cool time to be alive and in financial markets and being a part of this Bitcoin story. So appreciate you guys. I appreciate the love. Sorry for a shorter episode. But I got a lot of cool shit to do here in DC. If you're around tomorrow, my talks will be live streamed. So if you guys want to leave in the comments, I talked to the CEO of Tether. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about with him, and give a really cool keynote. It's only 10 minutes, but I'm really excited about it, about the history of U.S. economic announcements and why this is the first positive one in 100 years. Really cool stuff. So I'll see you guys and the rest of the internet tomorrow. Peace out. Much love.